Hey guys, my name is Angel Lara and I'll be doing my senior thesis on changing the education system in the US. It's a little bit of an intro. Here in the US, we actually have one of the highest dropout rates out of all the first world countries. And I just find that kind of weird seeing that, education is one of those things that I feel like every person should have the right of, but unfortunately that isn't available in all the countries. And I just wanted to get, a little bit closer and learn a bit more from the people to see why so many people feel like this system has failed them. So let's get into it. So a little bit of a research overview. So during this project, we had to figure out how to get our own research out there. And of course, we were in a pandemic, so it's not like I could just go outside and ask random people for their opinion. So I had to stay inside, social distancing, but that's when I remembered, we have social media. I could get the word out there. So I decided to use Instagram, and I asked a couple of people to help me fill out the survey. My auntie, she also I emailed it to her, and she emailed it to a lot of people, which I'm thankful for. And that survey ended up having 18 questions, and by the end of the month, it got 53 responses. And I just got a bunch of amazing results, and all the questions were school related and job related. But before I show those results, I just want to talk a little bit more about something called the ETS. So a little bit about the ETS. The ETS stands for Educational Testing Service, and it was taken by students around the world. The test measured career-oriented literacy, which is providing students many examples of pursuing a successful career, numeracy skills, which is being able to use math to solve real-world problems instead of the math problems that are given to you, and problem solving in technology-rich environments, which is just solving basic computer issues. By the end of the test, the results were astonishing. Here you can see above 2,000 per 100,000 people in the Netherlands between the ages of 25 to 34 had a college degree. But in the US, only around less than 1,300 people out of every 100,000 out of every 100,000 people had a college degree between the ages of 25 to 34. I mean, that's a big jump. And then we go over here to see the places in literacy. The Netherlands got a third in literacy. That's pretty high up there. But the US, on the other hand, they didn't do so hot. They got fifth to last, just fifth to last. That is just weird to me. And then of course, the Netherlands, they got second in problem solving technology rich environments. Meanwhile, the US got second to last in problem solving rich environments, which was also quite weird, seeing that the US is kind of considered one of the tech giants in the world. So why are they falling behind? And then of course, the last one, which was numeracy, which the Netherlands got fourth and the US got dead last. And if you guys want to read a little bit more about it, it's a book called Seeing the United States Education System Through the Prism of International Comparisons by Andrew Schleider. So here are a couple of questions that I picked out that were probably the most important. The first one was the salary of the teachers. A whopping 85% say that the salary of the teachers is way too low. And there's even one special comment that I say for this where someone decided to put, bro, that's too low for the kind of kids they deal with. Which I thought was kind of funny, but it's disrespectful to see students making fun of teachers because they'll be like, oh, you could have become a janitor, you could have gotten the same pay. But the teachers always come back with, oh, if I wanted money, I would not become a teacher. It's sad to see that that money isn't something that could be given to these teachers. I mean, they have one of the most important jobs in the world. They help inspire the next generation. Their job is just as important as any other doctor or scientist. I mean, they help us out. And something like I said earlier, the US wasn't doing so hot in the ETS. So I decided to see how much of what we have learned have we used outside. And right here, you can see a big chunk, that big chunk, which is 44% of the people I interviewed, use 25 to 50% of what they learned outside of school. Now, that may seem like a lot, but that other big chunk, the blue chunk, is 36% of people use 0 to 25% of what they use outside of school. So to clear it up, that's almost 78% of people use less than 50% of what they learned in school. I mean, we're here 6 to 8 hours a day, 180 days a year, just for what? Just for us to make all this knowledge let go. And even here in the bottom left, how much of the material that was taught to you have you learned and you feel like you still know it? Again,
a little bit under half of the people say they still feel like they know 25 to 50%, and 13% you know 0 to 25, and only around 30% say they know 50% or more. It's just really sad to see how much the students use and how much they actually learn from school. And of course, the grades, they're the very base of how to see how students are doing. And I asked, do you think the grading system is fair? 81% say no. The 18.9% say yes. It's really crazy how most of them know that this system is not the best. I mean, look at this right here. The US is 90 through 100, you get the A, right? We know that's standard. 80 through 89, B. 70 through 79, C. And then, of course, anything above us under 60 is an F. But over here in the Netherlands, remember, they got higher ratings than the ETS. But over here in the Netherlands, a 7.5, which is a 75 or a C, was their A. Wait a minute. Didn't they didn't they know how to use most of their stuff outside of school? And also, not only that, but the UK as well. 75% is an A minus for them. So it just raises the question: how come the US has such high grade standards, but they don't do so well in using it in the real world? What is going on? I mean, so here is basically a summary of my research. The first one being the salary is just too low for teachers. I mean, it's pretty much common sense. If you get paid more, you'd like your job, no? You'd want to stay at your job, but it's really sad to see teachers being being outpaid by some janitor that cleans the floor compared to someone that's literally inspiring the next generation, helping them reach their next chapters in life. It's just really disrespectful. And in other countries, they respect them as high as doctors. They treat them like doctors. They just full with respect for them. It's just simply not the same. But of course, another thing was that most of what is taught is forgotten. There was a perfect metaphor I came up for this. Imagine every student like a sponge. You've all heard that phrase, right? But imagine this. Imagine the sink being the school and the water being knowledge. You dip the sponge into water and the sink full of water. The sponge only absorbs so much, right? It can't absorb the whole sink full of water. That's exactly what's happening with the student. They're given so much knowledge within a short period of time, and it's just too much for them to handle. Sometimes it could lead to mental health disorders and even worse. But it's just not worth learning 6 subjects at once. We should probably be giving these students options of what they want to learn. Uh, Another thing is the grades in the US. I mean, we've seen it before. The Netherlands, they had a way lower grade scale, but yet their students did incredible and they learned. They actually learned, unlike here in the US where they didn't do as hot. And of course, most of what is taught is hard to use. I mean, most of these students don't know how to use it in the real world. I feel like that's something that's never implied when learning about something. Of course, I feel like that should be something that should be implied within every class. And a little bit of a reflection. You might be thinking, oh, most of the people that were filling my thing out were, high schools. They're probably just want to have more fun. They don't like school. They just want to, they just want to do other things. But in fact, 24, which was almost around half of the students that filled out my survey, were in college or university. So they know what they're doing. They have been through most of the stages of the education system. They're like at the final level of the boss or something like that. But it's just amazing to see how many people have the same ideas as high schoolers, and they keep the same mentality. Like they wish they could have learned, like back here, they wish they could have gotten ready for the real world. And it's really interesting to see that.
So here is the end of my senior thesis project. Here are a couple of takeaways that you guys can take from this. First one is that the US is falling behind. We saw the example with the ETS, how low the US scored compared to the Netherlands. It's just disgusting how students are spending 6 to 8 hours a day, 180 days a year, just for what? For just to get tossed a bunch of information, not even be able to learn how to use that information in real world. I feel like that's one of the things that we need to change. We have a lot of things to change in your education system, and it's all just going to take a bit of time. But I feel like, I mean, the people are saying that it isn't the best, but if we change, we could make the US a better country by just simply focusing more on the education system. And one of the biggest points is that the teachers' salaries can be improved. Higher pay for teachers has always been something talked, especially here in the Bay Area. You can see some protests in Oakland where teachers have been protesting to get higher pay. I personally do not know if they did end up getting that raise, but I feel like teachers do deserve that raise. And another solution would be Montessori. Before high school, I went to public charter schools my whole life, and I feel like this new system, or not new system, but this new place I came to, it was amazing. Like I remember before, I was like, school, I don't want to learn something that I'll never use before, or that I'm not really interested. But here at Montessori, they gave me options to explore what paths I want to do, which is my other thing, giving students options. If you give students options, they will learn. It's not like, oh no, you have to write down the notes on the whiteboard. No, you gotta give your students options. That's one of the few steps they can use to inspire the next generation. And I feel like becoming a teacher shouldn't be one of those jobs where like, yeah, I don't want to become a teacher. No, we should be inspiring students to teach, or to at least think about teaching. Because if you were to ask any student, what job would you say? I'm pretty sure none of them would say teacher. But I feel like if they were to get higher pay, we could get a better education system. And I would just like to say thank you to all those teachers that have been working with me for the past 4 years. Thank you to all those people who have been working with my assignments all those 4 years, and I hope you'll enjoy it.